This is Greg, a.k.a. Crazy G from New England Concert Reviews, and as always, today I have a very special guest. He actually comes from a very young band out of, help me if I get this wrong, Frankenmuth, Michigan, and he is the drummer, Danny Wagner, for the up-and-coming rock band, Greta Van Fleet. Hello, welcome, and thanks for taking the time to speak with us here at NECR. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Not a whole lot. We're just getting ready for our headlining tour coming up in America.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait. You guys are really something, and I gotta be honest with you, I heard of you before, but I wasn't sure, because I have relatives that live up in Michigan, and but I'm not sure if I discussed you guys with them at one time or not, but you sounded very familiar, and of course I also reported to radio, so I might have seen you guys come across somewhere. But anyways, first of all, we need to hear about this band. Can you give us a brief rundown on how Greta Van Fleet came about?
Yeah, sure. So the other three members of the band, Jake, Josh, and Sam, they're all brothers. So that kind of helped bring them together, from birth. And then it wasn't until, I think, my 8th grade going into freshman year of high school where the other three decided to start collaborating and play music together. They had a previous drummer that they had been playing some music with, but he wasn't necessarily the type that decided that he wanted to kind of take it up as a career rather than a hobby. So, he kind of parted ways, and then they took a little break, and then they decided that they still wanted to do it because, there was just some feeling there. And, I was around, we all grew up in a very small town of Frankenmuth, like you said, and, it's just like everyone knows everyone. I kind of came over and played some music with them for a little while, and then it just sort of started happening. They had a manager that had come and seen them prior to me even, and, even though it wasn't completely official, we wanted to make it as official as possible in our minds, so we would stay level-headed and driven. So we came up with our own contract that we all signed and we all stood by, and then we all signed that, and then that's kind of how we came together. We just some Frankenmuth boys playing some rock and roll in a garage.
Yeah, nice. And you guys are, don't take this the wrong way, but you guys are really, really young. You're just about out of high school, aren't you?
Yeah, me and Sam just graduated this June.
So you guys are like jumping right into it.
Yeah, no, that's not even an exaggeration. I think it was a day after my graduation party, which was June 4th. We headed to Sweden, and then we're just traveling all around the country. We're actually home right now, and this is really the first time we've been home since June. No
kidding. So you're hitting it with all guns blazing.
We are, totally are.
Greta Van Fleet has just come out with their debut EP called Black Smoke Rising. Can you tell us the story behind this debut EP a little bit?
Yeah, so in the earlier stages of Greta, we decided that the recording studio was a part of the puzzle that we had not totally figured out yet. So our previous manager got us to Al Sutton at Rust Belt Studios down in Royal Oak, and this was about 2 years ago. And we went in there, we met with him. He's Kid Rock's producer and engineer, and that's where Kid Rock recorded not where he recorded, but that's the producer he recorded his first 3 albums with. And then we started working on songs, and this is 2 years ago. Songs like Safari Song, Highway Tune, Flower Power, those songs were all started a good 2 years ago. And, we had just kind of been working on it over the course of 2 years because it's expensive to record in the studio. And we're doing it by our own expense, playing shows, making money, just barely getting it done. We didn't really have a plan for the EP until our management came around in the last year. I think it was actually a little over a year from today, back in late July last year when we signed with ABI Management. And since then, we kind of had this idea of forming an EP first, because it's a pretty, it was explained to me, and it's a pretty good way to start out as a fresh band with a sound that is not exactly the mainstream sound in today's music. So we just decided to pick 4 songs. Black Smoke Rising was written in the last year, and, we decided on those 4 songs because it really showcased a different angle of every approach in rock and roll for us.
And that makes perfect sense, Your sound blends what seems like many of the old old school rock and roll bands into one fantastic sound. It's evident through the entire EP. My favorite track is the opening track, Highway Tune. It's got that, that gritty or kind of a blues feel to it. What went into the making of that track?
Honestly, Highway Tune, from my understanding, is basically the ode to rock and roll. You might not believe me, but it was written about 5 years ago. I think it was the first song that Greta had ever conceived as a band, and it was written with the previous drummer that I had mentioned, so I wasn't actually involved in the initial writing process. We reworked it, redid a bunch of parts, but the initial concept came about 5 years ago, and we were just writing songs that we wanted to hear, and as a rock and roll listener, as we were writing that song, all the changes and parts and movements, we just wanted to keep the momentum going after that first initial riff that Jake could come up with, so it's kind of just the ode to rock and roll from our standpoint.
Cool. There's no denying one band you sound like from the rock and roll days. That is Led Zeppelin. The Safari song is one that is distinct in that nature. Not only what do you want to say about that song, but when people come to you, or maybe you'll see comments on a thread and they'll say, you guys have listened to too much Led Zeppelin. What do you want to say about that song, and how do you deal with people that compare you? I mean, not to say it's a bad thing, but you guys are trying to create your own Greta Van Fleet sound. You do sound similar to them. How do you respond to that?
When people make the comparison, a lot of the time it's, in the best intent, and we take that very humbly. They are one of the best rock band out there, to be honest. It's very humbling to be compared to such a band. We're all so young. We grew up with the classic rock, obviously. So when we were learning to play our instruments, we were looking up to who we knew as the best of the best. When we were learning, I was looking, John Bonham, the drummer, he is the best drummer in my opinion of all time. Keith Moon, Mitch Mitchell, a lot of those drummers, the powerhouse rock and roll drummers, that's who I grew up listening to. So naturally, that's kind of where an influence came from. Same with Jake, with guitar. When we were writing Safari song, it was, again, in the earlier stages, probably 2 or 3 years ago. We were just in the garage. Jake had come up with riff at the beginning, and it was really kind of just like a warm-up thing that he had started to do. But one of the other guys kind of butted in and was like, hey, after he played the riff, Sam and I just hit those crash notes right after, and we were like, all right, sounds like it could be at least something, a bridge or an intro or something, let's put that one on the shelf and kind of come back to it. And we came back to it, and then it kind of just wrote itself. And one day it was very energetic. There's no denying that our lead singer's voice has similar ranges, qualities, just the tiny little things like that. And as he's delivering, he's searching for the most power in his voice. And the way to do that is to sing like someone who has, power. Robert Plant obviously had power. A lot of even Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave, they all had power. So he's kind of looking at their techniques and delivering their voice to get that most power. And, it naturally sounds like that. There's nothing he can really do about it. He's not like intending on sounding like a specific person. It just kind of happens like that. And, to be compared is very humbling.
Well, a couple of your points, I have to agree with you with John Bonham, probably the greatest of all time. And two, yes, Josh, I closed my eyes and there was some notes that he hit. I was like, oh my word, man, he sounds just like him.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing to even try to emulate that band in some aspect, because they were just so amazing at what they did. According to some press I received, Greta Van Fleet's debut single is still in the top 10 at active and mainstream rock radio, and you racked up more than 250,000 additional YouTube views with the video Highway Tune in the last 2 weeks or so alone, which is now over 1.1 million views. How do you and the band feel on this, from what I see as a very successful start?
It was a pretty cool feeling. I was one of the kids who grew up looking at all the videos. That's kind of how I learned how to play the instruments. I know YouTube. So I was very attached to YouTube, and I thought it was a great source how it worked. And I never really fully understood it until we had released Highway Tune, the music video, that is. And then, just as things were developing, as we were playing more and more different areas, the views just kept going up, and it makes you stop and think about, how far exposure can go with just one simple video on a source like YouTube. It was pretty cool. It's a great feeling to know that there are other people out there who are responding. As a musician, that's all you could ever really hope for.
As you said, you did a little bit of touring, you're back home, but Greta Van Fleet goes out on tour in about a week, I want to say. You have a sold-out show at Great Scott's in Allston, Mass on August 21st. The band also has a break in between that takes you over the pond from September 20th to the 27th, if I'm not mistaken. What do you want to tell us about that particular show in Allston and this tour?
That show is going to be pretty cool because that's going to be, in my mind, I feel like that's going to be somewhere around the pinnacle of our first headlining tour. We've actually never been to Massachusetts either. So that's, and there has been some response leading up to it. We're playing the Great Scott. That's going to be really cool. I've kind of looked up. It's in a great area. I believe we go on at like 10 or 10:30 that night. I think it's a pretty solid time, too.
And how do you feel about the break in between the tour where you're going to be going across the pond from, I believe it's September 20th to the 27th?
That's going to be cool. We had always anticipated on a European sort of maybe mini tour, maybe tour, just depending on how it went. We put some tickets up for sale. And London's show actually sold out in 20 minutes, and we all just were floored by that. That just goes to show you how much a song on like Spotify or YouTube can really get your music out there internationally. And we're all very excited just because of that response thus far.
Awesome. Greta Van Fleet also seems to have material all ready to go, according to the same press I was looking at. I want to quote, "Fans can expect to hear all 4 songs from Greta Van Fleet's critically praised debut EP Black Smoke Rising, Lava Records, April 21st, as well as selections from the 25-plus additional songs already written, many already recorded. Each of our songs has its own gravity," Jake adds. "We're really excited for people to hear the diversity of more than just the 4 songs that have been released. Obviously, you guys already have material there. What do you want to tell us about that, or can you tell us about that?"
Yeah. So, as a band, we've been together for 5 years, and in that time, started writing pretty early. So we've just had this material that's just been on the back burner for a long time. The original studio process for us was rather slow. We were paying for it ourselves. It was get in there, and then you recorded the songs that were on the mind at the time. But yeah, we have about 25, maybe even more songs that we've just kept on the back burner. Some of them have been, started to record, but the truth is, in the last half year, we really haven't had any time to get in there and finish it. But we're in this, it's funny you ask that right now, we're in the studio yesterday, today, and tomorrow rehearsing for the tour. So we got the set list all written up, and we're putting the fine touches on it and polishing it up and whatnot. But yeah, you'll hear the 4 on the EP, and then all throughout, scattered all throughout, starting with the very first song of the set list is new material that has the same energy, but they're all just so different in so many different ways. We incorporate a lot of slide guitar now. We extended our acoustic set a little bit, if you consider Flower Power, and then we have another one that's an acoustic song. Just a bunch of songs that we just can't wait for the fans to hear because we honestly haven't had any time to put it out there yet.
Nice. Money in the bank, more or less. You're kind of ahead of the game.
I guess, yeah, you're kind of right because things have been happening much quicker than we had anticipated. So naturally, we just keep pushing touring because that's the best thing you can do with building your response. And then we're hoping to end around November, maybe get back into the studio for a solid month, finish up, because what's up next is the debut LP, full-length album.
Yeah, you definitely, oh, really?
Yeah, so you can expect that in the next year.
Sweet. I'll tell you, it seems like Greta Van Fleet, and I commend you on this, and I hope you really do, that Greta Van Fleet wants to bring back that rock and roll sound and style. You have many old school rock and roll bands that have impacted Greta Van Fleet. Can you explain how some of those bands might have influenced the sound of Greta Van Fleet, and who are some of those for you? Who do you look to as far as a drummer? You mentioned John Bonham, but are there like things you take from him that you see that you incorporate into your set of skills?
Absolutely. I remember as a kid riding the bus to school, there's just just specific moments like this where they'd be playing a lot of pop music on the radio. And I grew up listening to classic rock, and I really had no other idea that there was another type of music in this world. So I just remember, putting in my headphones, listening to my classic rock there, and, people like John Bonham, they were playing stadiums at a very young age. They're not too far off from our age right now when they started. So I really started looking at them, and, it's his mannerisms, his level of focus on stage. Nowadays, you see a lot of musicians who are just incredibly energetic, and I love that. That's like Hendrix too. A lot of us get, those mannerisms from them. But me as a drummer, I always looked at John Bonham in particular because he was so focused into what he was doing at the time. And I thought that was the coolest thing. You look at Keith Moon from The Who, he was a crazy man. He was a showman drummer. He's an incredible drummer, but it didn't exactly fit with what I naturally was drawn to as a drummer. So I was looking at people like even Buddy Rich, I learned a lot of jazz drumming originally just because I feel like that's one of the best ways to learn an instrument is to learn from the most experimental genre. And, looking at Buddy Rich, he was also just very engrossed into his music and playing and, along the lines of John Bonham, but he still had his natural power. They both still had this natural power to them, and that very much intrigued me as a drummer.
Did you ever, I read, like I said, we'll get back to some of your press there for a second. I read the Kiska Brothers basically went on music communes with the family. Did you ever partake in any of that?
Yeah, actually in the last 3 years, they have this annual trip where they rent out about 3 or 4 very large cabins and then a big warming house. And I think it's like a 3 or 4 hour drive from where we call home. We go there every February. It's just kind of an escape, but we bring together all of the musicians that they had grown up with. And, we play, we write, we just have a great time out in nature together. And, I had similar things growing up in my family. My mom played guitar. My mom's side of the family, my uncle did, my aunt did. So it's kind of like when we got together, every once in a while we bring in the guitars and we have this big musicians congregation, So yeah, I definitely partook in a lot of those.
No, and hey, listen, that's cool. That I'm a lot older, so I didn't get to experience Woodstock. I heard of it. I kind of seen it a little bit, but I thought that was a very cool time. Aside from all the political stuff, it was about love, peace, and happiness, and I think music brings people together, and I think it's pretty awesome that you guys do that to hone your skills as artists, and you enjoy doing it. It kind of gives you, I want to say, well, I don't want to speak for you, but I would assume it would give you, some sort of inner peace within yourself as well.
No, you're absolutely 100% correct. That's kind of what we stand for as musicians. It's love, it's peace, and it's unity, and we're always going to stand by that because music brought us together. Music has that feeling. Our long-term goal is just to make people feel the same that it made us feel when we were just coming into it.
Great stuff right there, man. Other than what we discussed, is there anything you'd like to add, and or is there anything else that we can look forward to in the future from Greta Van Fleet?
Honestly, just keep on looking out because shows just keep popping up. We have a bunch of shows coming up. A lot of them are sold out, but that doesn't mean that there won't be any more in between other shows. So just keep a lookout. We could be coming to a city near you out there, even internationally now, apparently, which is great. So, yeah, just keep on the lookout and look out for the full-length album. That will be on the way, too.
Cool. Nice. You guys got a website? You want to throw that out there?
Yes, we do. GretaVanFleet.com. There's also a link on Facebook. We finally put up our merchandise store. There's a link to that on Facebook as well, so you can buy your hoodies, your crew necks, your t-shirts, and also the a hard copy of Black Smoke Rising, the EP, is also available now on the website.
Ladies and gentlemen, Danny Wagner, drummer for the up-and-coming, very impressive rock and roll band, Greta Van Fleet. Danny Wagner, I thank you. NECR thanks you. I wish you the best, man. You guys got it going on. Let me tell you, whether you sound like a particular band or not, I hope to see you guys continue that success and that rise up that ladder.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Anytime, man. And like I said, I'll be looking out for that new CD, that LP coming out in the future. So keep up the good work.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yes.
Anytime, man. We'll catch you on the flip side, hopefully.
All right. right, yeah. Hopefully we can hook up with you at some point.
Sounds good, man. You take it easy and give my best to the band.
All right, likewise. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Danny Wagner, a drummer for the rock and roll band Greta Van Fleet. Very young. Check these guys out. You're not going to be disappointed. Great sound. They're the real deal. There's some pretty amazing musicians, and you definitely need to check them out. I am Greg, aka Crazy G, once again, and as always, for NECR. That's going to wrap another one up. I'm out of here. Peace. Later.